Start.
वासुदेवेन्द्र योगेन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते. नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्मा नमाम्यहम्.
We will start here. Thank you so much. So we are now seeing the formation of creation from a Vedantic model. The author has already shown to us how this individual came about in just some indications that he gave us, that it was the subtle elements which caused the antakaranam, organs of perception, the subtle aspect of the elements that formed the subtle antakaranam. The connection between the individual to her own true nature. Who is this individual? Is a question that is to be figured out by everyone. Know or you don't know. This time or in future anywhere, this query will have to be addressed. Just as in a lifetime, we address a lot of immediate requirements. What school, where to go, where to live, who to marry, how many children to have. There are thousands of questions, what career to pick up, what friends to choose. There are so many questions that we entertain and we address and we knowingly, unknowingly choose upon them. One question that we never address is, what is my nature, or who am I really? What is the truth of my life, etc. This pertaining to this question never gets resolved. Means even if we question it, it is not intensive enough. Like supposing if you're of a marriageable age and you have to marry and then you're wondering, it's an intense choice. Everything we do in our life is an intense, focused time, engagement, based on which we direct the life. This query never becomes intensive enough for the simple reason it seems to have no effect or impact on our life now. That's how we think. We don't see that how by knowing who I am, in fact, firstly, we don't question that far, but in case someone does, we don't see directly any connection between who I am and how does it bring me bread and butter. Whoever I am, I need to do something to get my bread and butter and shelter. So my basics around which I have to live are so preoccupying that even if I have that question in me, it remains unanswered, unresolved, or not attended fully that I may resolve it. Vedanta is an exclusive attention to that question. Who am I? What is my nature? What is it about my life that actually should be most important? Many such Directions of queries can be there, but they'll be centrally focused on the experiencer of the world, me. When I keep using I in every sentence, how is it that I have such little? I may think I have a lot of knowledge, but truly speaking, I really do not know much about my own self, even with my own recognition of my knowledge. So, the question that has been addressed in Vedanta is centered on you are your real nature and the knowledge of that real nature. Not limited, you're not born, you don't die, you're changeless. Elements do not affect you. You must have heard this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which is very, very famous. Atma is not wet by water, Atma does not get burnt by fire, Atma is not drowned, Atma cannot be destroyed. You hear a lot of these things, and that the elements cannot touch you if you are Atma. This whole idea that I am something beyond all this, this aspect is now beginning to open up. That, he says, when I look into the world and I see myself as one, this part and the world outside of me, and I am perceiving, I am reacting, I am responding, I am interactive, I see, I smell, I hear, I fear, I am, I like, I dislike, I am anxious, I am frustrated, so many. All my eye is fixed with so many things throughout every moment, every sentence. This I is related to the world, and that world is what is now beginning to get into a analysis as if to help us understand if I am Atman, as the Shastra has so far told us, then how is Atman relating to the world? What is my true relation with the world? Because when I am a name and a form and a body and my thoughts, I know I'm relating to the world. So if I see you and start talking to you, I take your name, I start talking to you, then I form further impression, I like or I don't like, and then I avoid or I seek. And with this image of myself as Deepti, I have a whole life I can see and I live and I interact. That seems okay. But if you tell Deepti, you are not Deepti, but you are Atman. And Atman is not Deepti, but because of Atman, Deepti is there. And this kind of makes me a little confused about then how am I responding to the world? Does Atman respond to the world? Is Atman the one which is hearing and smelling and seeing and thinking and etc.? That gap in one's knowledge, that is a question that comes up naturally, which Shastra must address also for my knowledge to be firm that I am Atman and not just Deepti. To say this, the analysis of the universe starts. How has the universe modified? How has the universe emerged? How is the universe seen? How is the universe come about for me to contact? Remember very fundamental basic that the universe is existent only if I am existent. It is existent for me. The minute I am not there, I say Deepti is not there, then there is no creation for Deepti. This is a fundamental that takes a little time itself to absorb into our system because we are so sure as Deepti, I am so sure that I have come into the world. I was born on such a day. And because I was born on such a day, I have come into the world and history is there, wars have happened, We know that there was a creation there before. Therefore, this must have always been. I just kind of, from where God knows I have come. Because I am a total misfit in the world. All of us will say, I am a total misfit. Pata nahi from where have I come here in this world? Now, this I, as Deepti who thinks she can relate to the world, as Atman, which world will she relate to? So what is my relation with the world needs to be clarified, for which Vedanta brings up the Srishti Prakarnam. Prakarnam means methodology of the topic. Let's say topic of creation. Srishti, topic of creation. What is this topic of creation? Topic of creation means I am told how or I am shown how the creation evolved. And remember, if I said without me there is no creation, which means I am a part of creation. So that must include me in the creation. So the model of creation should be such that I am also included in the creation. It is not that I am separate, I have a different model for the truth who I am, and the world has a different model in which we explain away its existence. I'll make this point, I'll repeat it again. There cannot be two models, one verifying the creation and its emergence, and the second model verifying who I am, my creation and my emergence. There cannot be two models, because as Deepti, I find myself non-separate, or I find myself an experience of the world. Yes, Hari Om everyone. Hari Om Ravindraji and Deepaji and Madhulaji and Shrutiji and everyone. I generally do not interrupt the class, so welcome everyone.
We are dependent on the world as we have come about the world.
That's
as
right.
Yeah, there cannot be two models, basically.
Absolutely. There cannot be two models that explain me separate and the world separate. So whichever model so far Vedanta gave us, telling us who we are, this model itself should include the answer to where the creation has come about, because as Deepti, I am a part of creation. I do not have a sense of, I do not smell something till I have a nose. I cannot smell a flower till I have a nose. I do not see anything if I don't have an eye. I do not hear anything. Deepti doesn't hear anything if she didn't have ears. Deepti doesn't see anything if she doesn't have eyes. Deepti doesn't smell anything if she doesn't have nose. Deepti doesn't taste anything if she doesn't have tongue. Deepti doesn't touch anything if she doesn't feel anything if she doesn't have touch. Skin. That means that we saw in the previous classes the inseparability of the senses with their respective sense objects. And these sense objects are actually a part of the world. That sense object and its amalgamation, its aggregation is what we are calling the world. What really is the world? It is the amalgamation of all the sense objects. And object doesn't mean made in Turkey and made in China and that vase and that glass. And that's not the object. That's just an object for touch and okay for utility. That is a manufactured object. But that which is naturally available to us, the minute you go today, I was in the morning trying to look for an apt video because I wanted to start the class by just showing you a video. Now I'll just have to say it and you have to imagine it. Imagine you're going through a beautiful morning, and you see there are fields around and there is sun rising and there are streams of sun rays through the leaves and the branches of the trees, and there are cow grazing and sheep grazing somewhere, and you hear some temple bells around you. Imagine this sight now. Just imagine that sight, and you are on the walk. You're walking, having a morning walk. Now, my question to you will be, first of all, Now that I've said it, if it was just a video, it would have been very impactful because I would have given no word, and I will ask you then, what all do you see here? As I said I had tree, I said sunlight, I said cow, I said, you can multiply it. But when you multiply this, where do they all rest actually on? If I say I see a tree, is the tree non-separate from your eye? Is a tree, this is a very difficult thing to resolve in Vedanta because for us it was there before. I just saw it, नहीं तो इतना बड़ा कैसे हो जाता? अगर पेड़ पहले से नहीं होता तो बड़ा कैसे हो जाता? The question is, was it in my experience at all? So the creation seems to be that we are addressing, and maybe science will also culminate some point at this. It is a big leap in a thought. Creation is constantly under experience. It is the experience that verifies creation. If there is no experiencer of the creation, creation is not verifiable. There is nothing. If we haven't found out that bats have ultraviolet, was that ultraviolet hearing? The band of with ultra? Bats hear ultrasonic. Ultraviolet is from the ultrasonic band. Now, because we discovered, now it's a part of our creation. Till you did not discover, what is it? You don't know. There is so much you don't know about the universe today. You are just presuming there is a lot more because the more you find, the more you get. But question is that this universe that we experience, is it an experienceable universe without my senses contacting? Which means Deepti's eyes have to be there for the tree to be said as a tree. If I call that tree a tree, Deepti's eyes have seen it, so I call it a tree. Because I heard the temple bell as I was walking, and in hills you hear villages have these temple bells, and you are somewhere else, but the sound carries so beautifully. You can hear the bells even if you're kilometers away, and you know for sure there is a temple there. How? Because the ears heard it. Now go a little more deep or focus on one point, and the point is the existence of temple corresponded in knowledge to you in your experience of the sound of the bell, or you saw the temple. That means me being a part of creation, I have to fix my vision here first. I am non-separate from, I did not come and go. I and creation coexist all the time. Which I? Deepti and creation coexist all the time. Deepti is not experienceable without creation. Creation is not experienceable without Deepti. And replace your names automatically. Don't say without Deepti, creation is not experienceable. So, for starting from top left, without Divya, creation is not experienceable. Without Priyanka, experience not experienceable. Aurora uncle, experience not Megha, etc., etc. That means what? That non-separability, Deepti and creation, they are two sides of a coin. If Deepti is my idea, creation is experienced because Deepti has identified with eyes and ears and knows Deepti seems to be owning them. So there is this experience. This non-separation means Deepti being part of it. Vedanta must give us the origin of creation, and that must include the origin of Deepti. The origin of creation means the emergence of creation must also include how am I experiencing creation, because I have already established I am non-separate from creation. So it must also include me as a part of creation. And this is what you will see in this beautiful expression of how Srishti has emerged. And it will boil it down to where this individual experiences it. So the author here starts with Chaturvimshati Tattva Utpatti Prakaram. The 24 factors, emergence of it, evolution of it, manifestation of it. Now I will talk about it. And to say this, he said first, Brahmashraya Sattva Rajastamo Gunatmika Maya Asti. Where has the starting point of creation? Brahman. Brahman is the first sentence, first word of the sentence. Brahman is the ashray of Maya. And Maya is Trigunatmika, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Asti means is. Maya is the Adhishthan. Maya is emerging in. The Adhishthan doesn't mean in a how we sit on a chair or on a floor and we say floor is the Adhishthan. So for us the perception of Adhishthan is linear like that. Adhishthan means the substratum on which it is seen. Rope and snake example. Rope is the Adhishthan of snake. The entire rope is the Adhishthan of snake, not just one part of it. So Brahman is the Adhishthan of Maya. And Maya, that which is not, which means Maya is an inclusion now. Hear this very well because it leaves a lot of confusion in people's minds. Maya is an inclusion now, introduction now from Shastra Drishti to help explain the Srishti Prakriya model. Maya is an introduced factor first. Based on what? It says Maya is Trigunatmika. Based on what? Simple thing. Based on what do you see around? And this is where, let me see if I can share because they do allow us to share a video. Oh. Okay, never mind. Now, supposing in the same imagery that I just said, in that imagery, if you were asked, what do you see? What are you experiencing? You're obviously going to say trees, cows, etc. Go further a bit. Analyze. I will not give you answer. Analyze. What else do you see? How else will you categorize it? So first thing that we said is, I see the sun and I see the trees and I see the cows and I see the sheep and I hear the bell and the freshness of the air and there are people around. This is my first visual, physical category of how I'm dividing the world. How other way can you divide that frame of your perception at that time? How else will you divide anybody?
With sounds.
Deepti, people, animals, and maybe nature.
Right.
Would it be
Correct.
experiences?
Sorry?
Experiences, emotion.
Correct. Yes, emotions, experience, yes, skin, air, sound, yes, done. What else?
Energy.
Energy, okay. These are all terms which just How else will you categorize? Though this is correct, living beings, say living beings
Perception.
and inert. I've already said that. Living beings and inert. Start seeing it further. If that was a visual impact, imagine it would have been very beautiful if I could bring that video up, but I don't know how to do it. When you look at a cow moving, grazing,
Perception.
okay, perception, just focus on a cow grazing.
Oh.
You see its movement, you see life there, you see movement there. What else will you start seeing there? You see, this is where if you don't have Vedantic study and if you were just an observant person, you will go on questioning piche, piche, piche. When you keep going backwards and backwards, that's where Vedanta will answer the question. And that's the answer here. What else do I see there? I see that the cow grazes when?
It's hungry.
When it's hungry. When is it hungry?
When its
The food
stomach
is
tells it.
When it is hungry.
When its stomach tells it's hungry.
When its stomach is empty. When the stomach is empty. Now, the minute the stomach is empty, what happens to the cow? It gets a little restless and moves towards what it identifies as the source of its food. The minute it has fed itself, what happens to the cow?
Feels satiated.
Sleepy. Like he must. It sleepy now. Start identifying not in terms of objects in dimensions, but in terms of what are they exhibiting. If you start tracing backwards, what does it exhibit? Now, when it is hungry, what does it exhibit? When a cow is hungry, what did it exhibit?
Rajas.
Discomfort.
Discomfort. And therefore,
Rajas.
okay, straight away. Yes. Correct. Movement, yes, because we've done it. But how you learn to trace it. And once you start tracing it, that word there is Rajas. So what I'm trying to point here is that when we study these three gunas, we kind of, start seeing the world from gunas. Actually, what Vedanta is telling us, you see the world, and what you find here is categorized as these. It's a name given. But do you start identifying the common factor between them? Whoever is moving with a sense of consciousness of I. Does a cow move with a sense of a consciousness of I? So how do I know? When it has a calf, have you seen a cow? That means it must be also having an I. Because the way it moves around its calf is probably how a human moves around its newborn. So, yes. So the minute you see, observe, and you trace back the commonness between expressions that you are contacting. So when Deepthi starts seeing all things moving and she realizes that there is this commonness between them, and it's a quality, not just mamatvam, it's a quality that is being exhibited. Finding it in terms of qualities, and these are difficult words to translate, as I said, therefore guna is the best word. उसका एक गुण दिखता है और सिर्फ वो उसमें यूनिक नहीं है. You somehow are able to identify it on a canvas, entire canvas of life, whenever it is. Past, whether there were generations that have gone before us, they have experienced the same things in world, if there was an eye and an ear, etc. Their objects, I have a digital world and its experience today. Yes, 50 years ago, my parents and grandparents did not have a digital world to experience, but whatever they were experiencing were the objects for the senses itself. So the gunas that you see are actually, as we said, the minute the cow's stomach is empty, there is this ichha that comes up for food. There is this knowledge that comes up which food is good for it. And then there is this capacity to move towards the food that it thinks is conducive for its health, its existence. These three are the gunas: Ichha and Jnana Shakti, Kriya and Karma Shakti. And absence of two means resting stage. After you've eaten, the body needs to rest to digest its food. So less activity to no activity. Not an inspired and dynamic, energetic expression of life, but you see, when you see your pigeons around you, and they are all the time there, when you see the pigeons around and they just stay there. They only move when they need to move, otherwise they're back there. In what form? That tamas is not a derogatory guna. It's an identification of an expression of creation. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है ना, that's why I said weekends is some place where most of us fall into this. Our lounge chairs, reclining chairs, now recliners now, and very furniture designing has become a profession in itself, and most of it is aimed at tamas, giving an expression to tamas. So when you watch the television, you have to be like that and etc. And then your chairs have to revolve because so much of that just pade rehna kind of a thing. With nothing moving much, only you start moving like when there is hunger and etc. or something else. This expression of the three, you have to identify this. You see what happens normally when we get familiar with the terms, we just it's that understanding becomes so integral that it is divided with the perception of recognition. Because it's easy to identify and initially very nice to hear, but it gets kind of alienated from the perception. Creation ka model has started with Brahman. Maya is taking an ashray in Brahman. Now Brahman is going to be there. Maya is what is Trigunatmika, which means whatever I see in the world, everything that Deepti will experience is going to be Trigunatmika. Will experience, is experiencing, has experienced. So what really is Maya saying? First and foremost, it gives us the characteristic of creation. The division is in terms of the characteristics. What are the characteristics that are expressing as creation? Because those are the ones that we experience. And these characteristics now, he says, Tataha Akashaha. That means Maya. Once Maya is there, with Brahman as the base, as the Adhishtan, in Brahman, Maya is the very first formation, and this Maya is not a literal Maya. It is not there actually. It is introduced to help us understand the Shastra model. Shastras introduced it, just as in a mathematical equation, x is equal to something. That something, we give it a figure first, then we derive the equation, and therefore we conclude, therefore x is equal to this. If my derivation is correct, then my supposition and my conclusion will match. Absolutely. That is the model of Srishti. So Maya is that introduction, X is equal to this. And from here he says, from Maya emerges Akashaha. Tataha Akashaha Sambhutaha. It's born. Sambhutaha emerges. Akashat Vayuhu. From Akasha, Vayu. Vayuhu Tejaha. Excuse me. From Vayu, fire. Teja. Tej is the word actually. Brilliance. Light. English, we say fire. Generally. Tejaha. From Tejas, Apaha. Apaha is water. From Tej is water. Jal. Adbhyaha Prithvi. Adbhyaha is plural of water. From waters comes Prithvi, earth. So if you see the very first emergence of creation, now I'm beginning to going to call it manifestation. So what is there in Brahman is entire unmanifest creation. The minute the manifestation process begins, Maya is the first introduction. And Maya is introduced based on the characteristics we have seen in creation. And we want to explain away this creation. And in creation, there are 5 elements that make creation, which are in our experience. These 5 elements have come about from Maya. Maya, which is made up of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. SRT is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Maya transformed, changes, emerges. From Maya emerges space, Akash. I wanted to actually write the original words, didn't have the time. I have to shift equipments to write the Sanskrit part. Akasha, from Akasha, Vayu, from Vayu. This is what you have to see, because this is what is important. They are not all 5 elements thrown into the world at one time. One element has become the cause for the other element. So Akash is the cause for Vayu. Vayu is the effect with reference to Akash. Vayu is the cause for Agni. Agni is the effect of Vayu. Then Agni becomes the cause for Apaha, Jal. And Apaha is the product, is the effect, is the produce from fire. And Apaha becomes the cause, Karanam, of the produce, which is Prithvi. So Brahman with Maya, along with Maya, and Maya has gunas. So if you just see the first sentence, Brahman with Maya, if you call it, along with Maya, this along with Maya, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas is what is Gunatmika. So everything here in creation has come from Maya. And everything is Gunatmik. And this Gunatmik Maya, this Srishti that emerges, is also therefore called Maya Srishti. And what happens to Brahman? It remains. So Brahman plus Maya is space. Then space undergoes the change. Brahman remains as Adhishthan. Brahman continues to remain the Adhishthan, continues to remain the Adhishthan, changelessly the supportive Adhishthan of this creation that is caused. And these, what are called from Maya, the first layer that is coming about Our idea of air, space, fire, water, earth is what we are seeing and contacting. But this is not what has emerged first. And that is why science is very far behind. Very far behind. And honestly, I tell you why I became a Vedantic student is because I understood very early that the answers will not be resting in the education that we get in the present times. Because my life will go away, but I will never get an answer for certain questions because we are really far behind in our inquiry. Why? Because this space, air, fire, water, earth, the elements that we contact, if we are calling this the creation and trying to find an origin of this creation, it is from Vedantic perspective, very soon you'll realize, the first thing that's got created is the Sukshma Prapancha. The Sukshma Pancha Tattva. Tattvas are also called Bhutas. Pancha Bhutas or Pancha Tattva. These are Sukshma. That means what my Deepti's eyes are seeing is not color and form, which is straight away originated from Maya. By the time it will come to this is still going to undergo modification. So the first thing that comes from Maya is the Sukshma Pancha Tattva. Very important to note this. This Sukshma Pancha Tattva, because Maya is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, therefore each of these elements also has Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So space also has Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Vayu also has Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, etc. So Brahman remains the changeless Adhishthan from where the Utpatti begins. With the help of Maya, and Maya is Trigunatmika, so all the elements that have emerged are also Trigunatmika, and then further, the author is saying, Etesham Panchatattvanam Madhye Akashasya Satvikamshat Shrotra Indriyam Sambhutam. Vayoho Satvikamshat Tvak Indriyam Sambhutam. Agnehe Satvikamshat Chakshuhu Indriyam Sambhutam. Jalasya Satvikamshat Rasnendriyam Sambhutam. Prithivyaha Satvikamshat Rasnendriya Sambhutam. So now what has happened? Maya is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Excuse me. So Sattva, Rajas, Tamas of the Maya and space, air, fire, water, earth having emerged. Space has also got Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Space means Akasha. Vayu has got Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Agni has got Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Apaha has got Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Prithvi has got Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva of Akasha. Sattva of Akasha. You'll have to connect it like this. I didn't know how best to draw this diagram now. Sattva Akasha now becomes the causative factor for Shrotra Indriya, for the organ, for the sense of hearing. Shrotra Indriya. Here they're all mentioned only as the organ, but you have to keep adding Indriya again. Shrotra Indriya. See the previous verse? Panchatattvanam Akashah Satvikam Shat Shrotra Indriyam Sambhutam has emerged. So first Brahman Maya. Maya transforms into the five elements which are Sukshma. Sattvic Amsha of Akasha emerges into the Shrotra Indriya. Sattvic Amsha of Vayu emerges the Tvak Indriyam. Sattvic Amsha of Agni emerges the Chakshu Indriyam, Sattvic Amsha of Jal, emerges the Rasana Indriyam, and Sattvic Amsha of Maya, of Prithvi, Sattvic Amsha of Prithvi, I've done Rasana again, is the Gandha Sambhutam, spelling mistake, printing mistake, huge mistake. Gandha Indriyam. From Prithvi, you get the smell. So, thank God, here it's right. Okay. So, space, air, fire, water, earth. Now, Sattvic Amsha of each of them emerges ear, air, vayu, skin, fire, eye, water, tongue, earth, nose. These are all still Indriya Sukshma. If you remember the first part when we did this, Sukshma is the tattvas from where these Indriyas have come. Next what? Antakarana. Etesham panchatattvanam samashti sattvikamshat. Totality of all the 5 elements, Sukshma elements. From there arises Mano, Buddhi, another spelling mistake. Ahankara, Chitta, Antakaranani Sambhutani. This should be Ahankara. Need proofreaders. Etesham panchatattvanam samashti sattvikamshat mano buddhihi ahankaraha chitta antakaranam sambhutani. See how he started with actually saying the elements have emerged. But is there a division between the world and you? When it is talking about the emergence of the creation, it is actually relating it back to you, the experiencer. So the Antakaranam is come from the Sattvic Amsha of all the elements. So here again, Maya, space, air, fire, water, earth, together. All 5 elements ka Sattvic element of all the 5 gives rise to Antakaranam. And Antakaranam is made up of, we've done this before too, we did Mano and Buddhi. Chit and Ahankar I said we'll do later, and this is where we do it. So your Antakaranam is Mano, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. And remember when we said, if your eyes are, Indriya is the Sukshma Shariram, mind, Manas is where all the 5 are experienced together first. So if your eye is seeing, it is registered in the mind, and then on it, it is, he's going to talk about it. Let me say this much first. So all the 5 elements, the Sattvic component of all 5 together, that is why mind becomes the Ek Indriya for the recognition of all the 5 together. If my eye is seeing, ear is hearing, and I am tasting and I am smelling a very good, supposed to be, say, when does a cook get a Michelin star? When he can create, she can create. Food combination in such that most of your senses are able to enjoy it. It should good to look at, it is good to taste, it is good to smell, and of course you can't hear food, but when it is cooking, you can, it is good, and that flavorsome, etc., etc. How is it that all the 5 different Indriyas movements, if you remember the Kathopanishad example, I gave you the 5 horses. I don't know, I think we've covered so much already now that how much are we carrying forward, I don't know. That Kathopanishad example, 5 horses move in 5 directions, and all the 5 are held by the reins. These reins were, all 5 come merged at one point. Someone is holding the reins. Those reins was a mind. All the 5 perceptions converge into one indriya, which is manas, actually called antakaranam. We'll leave it at it. All the 5 is emerging into the antakaranam, converging into the antakaranam. Therefore, the antakaranam must have their counterparts of sattva included. So we say antakaranam has sattvic amsha of all the 5. That is how you know. And then he's going to be defining what are each one of them. What is manas? What is buddhi? What is ahankar? What is chit? And what is afterwards the devtas of each one. This is a model that has started. So if you want, you can start drawing or you can start writing, because this is going to form a complete chart in itself. At this point, I'll stop today. Next time, we will start with the definitions, because this is a complete topic in itself and absolutely the touchable topic. What is called... So, Antakaranam, so far we have said, has come from the Sattvic Amsha of the 5 Sukshma elements. Sukshma Bhutas. And this Antakaranam is where we are resting, as Deepti says herself, as Deepti is where? Where is that residing? I am Deepti. This knowledge is residing where? In my ears, in my eyes, in my nose, in my smell. Where it is residing is Antakaranam. मैं ये शरीर हूँ. ये शरीर हूँ. I am this body, I am this fair or height or this color or this gender or this religion or this blah blah. Where is this residing? Where I have the sense of individuality, where is it residing? That place from where it is residing is also the place which is making me say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get here, I want to go there, I have this, I have that. So the entire life vyavhara that I experience with reference to the world seems to be from what gets converged in that antakaranam. And that antakaranam is mano, buddhi, chit, ahankar. These 4 words comprised together is one antakaranam. And actually, karanam means inner instrument. That's all it means. That inner instrument to experience the world, to know the world, to experience oneself as our image of ourselves, etc. So all my knowledge of myself as Deepti, contacting the world, living the world, enjoying the world, sorrowful from the world, disturbed by the world, agitated by the world, excited by the world, wanting this from the world, avoiding that in the world. बहुत कुछ एक जीवन में बहुत कुछ दीप्ति करती, बहुत कुछ करेगी, बहुत कुछ कर लिया, सब कुछ instrument for it is Antakaranam. It's called an instrument. To make the change that is required, which a human being does, but it's Antakaranam for Samashti also. Samashti means total. So what is mind? Manaha kya hai? English translations mind. Mind has got translated sometimes even for the whole Antakaranam and sometimes only for Manas. So mind is a general term. Sometimes it keeps coming here and there loosely, kabhi to refer to the whole Antakaranam and specifically to Manaha. But in our Shastra, we have specific definition. The whole is called Antakaranam. What English is calling as mind, generalizing it. For us, there is only Antakaranam. Sharir is the Bahya Karanam. External instrument. There is an external body instrumentation and there is an internal instrumentation. The external instrumentation is the body and the organs. The internal instrumentation is the mana, buddhi, chit, ahankar. And this we will do tomorrow. The definitions of each. I still haven't added the. Let's just chant the invocation. Anybody wants to do the invocation?
Can I try, Deepti ji?
Please do.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्.
And we must also now start learning the second one. So, thank you everyone. I will